When my startup attracted investors, friends who refused to help wanted partnerships. After they quit their jobs for my offers, I rescinded all of them due to budget restructuring. When my startup began attracting investors, my friends who had refused to help suddenly wanted partnerships. At the celebration dinner, my former roommate announced, "Remember when she couldn't even pay rent? Look at her now. Lucky break." Everyone laughed. I just smiled and continued pouring champagne. The next week, they all received job offers from my company. After they quit their secure positions, I rescinded all offers due to budget restructuring. Now they're sending group texts. "This isn't fair. We were always supportive. Let me tell you how I got here." And I swear, this is gonna sound like something straight out of a Netflix drama. 3 years ago, I was that girl hustling out of my cramped apartment, living off ramen and Red Bull, trying to get my tech startup off the ground. Not some fancy AI thing, just a simple platform connecting local businesses with freelance marketers. Nothing revolutionary, but something I believed in with my whole heart. My circle back then included 5 college buddies: Jess, Marco, Kyle, Tara, and Dan. We'd all graduated from state together, shared an old Victorian house senior year, and supposedly had that ride-or-die friendship thing going. Man, was I naive when I first pitched them my business idea over wings and pitchers. At Buffalo Wild Wings, they nodded along, giving me those "that's nice, honey" smiles. I wasn't asking for cash. I knew we were all broke millennials drowning in student loans. I just wanted help testing the platform, maybe some connections, or even just moral support when I was pulling all-nighters coding. "I'll totally check it out when it launches," Kyle said, not even looking up from his phone. Tara was more direct. "Honestly, like 90% of startups fail in the first year. Maybe get something stable first?" That stung, but whatever. I kept grinding. My Toyota Corolla became my office most days. I took side gigs coding websites for local dentists and pet groomers. I skipped birthdays and bachelorette weekends to work. When I couldn't make rent one month, Jess, my roommate at the time, made it crystal clear how annoyed she was, telling our whole friend group I was financially irresponsible behind my back. That winter was rough, like eating peanut butter for dinner 3 nights in a row. Rough. I moved out of the apartment I shared with Jess and into a studio so tiny my bed doubled as my couch. No one helped me move. They were busy that weekend watching the Super Bowl at Marco's place, a gathering I wasn't even invited to because you never show up anyway. The only person who had my back was my cousin Emma. She wasn't even in tech, just a kindergarten teacher with a heart of gold who believed in me when nobody else did. She'd bring me homemade lasagna and sit with me while I worked, asking questions about my business even though I know half the tech talk went over her head. Fast forward 18 months of hustle, and things started clicking. Local businesses loved the platform. Word spread. A small business journal featured us. Then came the big break. A venture capital firm wanted to meet. When they offered $1.5 million in seed funding, I literally ugly cried in my car afterward. The same week the funding news dropped, guess who started blowing up my phone? Yep, the whole crew. "Girl, we need to celebrate," Tara texted. "So proud of you." Dan, who'd ignored my last 15 texts about grabbing coffee, suddenly wanted to catch up and talk business opportunities. I didn't reply right away. Part of me wanted to tell them all to kick rocks, but another part, the petty part that had been taking notes this whole time, had a better idea. I rented out a private room at Catch, that fancy seafood place downtown nobody in our friend group could normally afford. Open bar, champagne towers, the works. Sent them all gold foil invitations that screamed, "I've made it." They all showed up dressed to the nines, suddenly my biggest fans. Jess hugged me so tight, saying, "I always knew you'd make it." Marco brought an expensive bottle of Veuve Clicquot like we were old money or something. The night was going exactly as planned until Jess, 3 martinis deep, clinked her glass for a toast. She swayed slightly, flashing that fake smile I'd grown to hate. "To my oldest friend," she announced to the room. "Remember when she couldn't even pay rent? God, those were days. And look at her now. Talk about a lucky break." Everyone laughed, not the friendly kind of laugh. The "remember when you were a loser" kind. I just smiled and continued pouring champagne. Luck had nothing to do with it. Update. Hey Reddit, thanks for all the awards and comments. Some of you are asking if I confronted them right there at the dinner. Nope, I played the long game. Strategic, not reactive. That night I just smiled, knowing what was coming. And yes, they were about to learn exactly how lucky I'd been. As for those wondering about the legality, just wait. Did I mention I dated a corporate lawyer for 6 months during my startup phase? More details coming. The next morning, I put phase 2 into action. I had my HR director, yes, I had an actual team now, send personalized job offers to all 5 of them. Impressive titles, competitive salaries, about 20% above what they were currently making. The positions were legit. I was expanding and needed people, but there were plenty of qualified candidates who hadn't treated me like garbage. Kyle was the first to bite. He called me, all excited, saying he'd put in his 2 weeks at his marketing job. This is going to be epic working together. Within 3 days, all 5 had accepted. Jess even posted on Instagram about taking a leap of faith to join a groundbreaking startup with my bestie from college. The caption was under a photo of us from 7 years ago because she didn't have any recent ones. We weren't exactly hanging out. I let 2 weeks go by. Just enough time for them to quit their jobs, maybe even celebrate a little. Marco texted me about a signing bonus to help with his moving costs since he'd have a longer commute. I left him on read. Then, exactly 15 days after sending the offers, they each received the same email from HR. We regret to inform you that due to unexpected budget restructuring following our recent investment round, we must rescind the employment. Offer previously extended. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause and wish you the best in your future endeavors. The bomb dropped on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, my phone was blowing up. Is this some kind of joke? Kyle texted, "You can't do this. I already quit my job," from Tara. Jess called 17 times in a row. I declined every call. By evening, they'd created a group chat that I was included in, where they were all melting down. "This isn't fair." "We were always supportive," Marco wrote. Dan suggested they all come to my office to sort this out in person. That's when I finally responded, in the most corporate, detached way possible. "While I understand your disappointment, all offer letters clearly stated that employment is contingent upon final budget approval. The investment terms required certain adjustments to our hiring plan. This business decision wasn't personal. I wish you all the best." But we all knew it was personal. So damn personal. The fallout was biblical. They tried calling my investors, who had no idea who these random people were. They threatened legal action. Those offer letters were ironclad, reviewed by our counsel. Jess even called my parents, trying to get them to intervene like we were in high school or something. I stayed radio silent for a week, letting them stew. My actual business was booming, and I was busy hiring people who deserved to be there. The following Monday, I sent each of them a small gift basket with a handwritten note. Sometimes lucky breaks are actually years of hard work that nobody noticed. Best wishes finding your next opportunity. Inside each basket was a copy of that Business Journal article about my startup's rise, which included a line about how I'd developed the entire platform, nights and weekends while working full-time, jobs to support myself, with no outside financial support. Petty? Absolutely. Satisfying? Like nothing I'd ever felt. Update. Whoa, this blew up overnight. To answer the most common questions. 1. Yes, the rescinding was completely legal. Employment at will works both ways, people. 2. No, I don't feel bad. Karma comes in many forms, and sometimes it wears Louboutins and carries a clipboard. 3. What happened next? Well, let's just say the story gets even juicier when one of them tried to pitch my exact business model to a competitor. Anyone curious about how that corporate espionage attempt played out? Hint. Don't mess with someone who documents everything. 2 weeks went by with blissful silence. I assumed they'd all moved on, maybe found new jobs, definitely learned. A lesson. But if there's one thing I've learned about fake friends, it's that they're as persistent as they are audacious. It was a random Thursday when I got a call from another startup founder I knew through networking events. We weren't close, but we respected each other. "Hey, just giving you a heads up. Your former friend Marco came in for an interview yesterday. He spent half the time talking about how he helped build your platform from the ground up. Said he was basically your technical co-founder, but you pushed him out." I nearly spit out my La Croix. "He what now?" "Yeah," showed us what he claimed. "Were early wireframes he designed for your UI. Something seemed off, so I thought I'd check with you before making any decisions." Those wireframes were from a weekend workshop I'd attended solo at the public library. I still had the original files with metadata showing creation dates and my user info. Marco had never seen them, let alone created them. I thanked my colleague for the heads up and immediately contacted my lawyer. We sent Marco a cease and desist letter that arrived at his apartment via courier the next morning. Professional, but with a clear message. Try that again and we're going to court. Meanwhile, Tara and Kyle had apparently been bad-mouthing me to mutual acquaintances, saying I was unstable and let success go to my head. One former classmate texted me screenshots of Tara claiming I'd stolen the business idea from a group project in our senior marketing class. The project had been about local restaurant advertising, nothing remotely like my platform. Dan took a different approach. He showed up at my office unannounced, all humble and apologetic. Our receptionist called back to warn me. "Should I send him away?" she asked. "No," I said after thinking about it. "I'll see him." When Dan walked in, he looked rough, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing a rumpled button-down that had seen better days. "You look terrible," I said, not getting up from behind my desk. "Yeah, well, being suddenly unemployed will do that." He sank into the chair across from me. "Look, I know I wasn't the friend I should have been. I was jealous, honestly. You were actually doing something with your life while I was stuck in cubicle hell. I'm sorry for everything." I studied him. Dan had always been the most genuine of the group, which isn't saying much, but his apology seemed sincere. "I appreciate that," I said finally. "But it doesn't change anything." He nodded. "I know. I'm not here to beg for a job. He trailed off, looking around my office. The floor-to-ceiling windows, the awards already lining my bookshelf, the view of downtown. "I'm impressed, for real. You built all this while we were all doubting you. That's legit." For a split second, I felt a twinge of our old friendship. But then I remembered how he'd ignored my calls when I was struggling, how none of them had actually believed in me until there was something in it for them. "Thanks, Dan. Good luck with your job search." I stood up, signaling the end of our conversation. He looked like he wanted to say more but just nodded and left. Later that afternoon, I got a text from Jess. So Dan gets a private audience, but you won't even answer my calls? Typical. I blocked her number. The final piece of this revenge saga came about 3 months later, when my company was featured in TechCrunch. The article included a photo of me and my team, my real team, the people who joined when we were still working out of a co-working space with spotty Wi-Fi and no air conditioning. People who believed in the vision, not just the success. Emma, my cousin who'd brought me those home-cooked meals, was now my chief of operations. Turns out her kindergarten classroom management skills translated perfectly to keeping a startup team on track. The article specifically mentioned how she'd been there from day one. The piece went mini viral in our local tech community. My former friends all saw it. I know because they still followed my company page, watching from the shadows like digital stalkers. That evening, I received a lengthy email from Tara. The subject line read, "I get it now." She wrote about how seeing Emma in that article made her realize what true friendship looked like, how she'd been self-centered and short-sighted. She ended by saying she didn't expect forgiveness, but wanted me to know she'd learned something valuable from all this. I never responded, but I didn't block her either. Some lessons take time to really sink in. Update 3. Final update, y'all. First, thank you for all the support and the Reddit gold. Many of you asked about my company today. We just closed our Series B funding round last month. 12 $12 if you're curious. As for the Fab 5, Dan actually landed on his feet at a decent firm and sent me a LinkedIn congrats when we announced our funding. I accepted his connection request. Growth, right? Jess tried launching her own inspired by version of my platform that flopped spectacularly. The others have faded into social media obscurity. The real MVP? Emma's now my COO and absolutely crushing it. Guess who's in line to be godmother to her first baby? Sometimes the family you choose is better than the friends who chose to doubt you. Karma really is that girl. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Today, my company employs over 50 people and just moved into proper offices with my name on the building directory. We're expanding to 3 new cities next quarter. I drive a Tesla now, though I keep the old Corolla as a reminder, and I'm looking at buying my first house. A far cry from that studio apartment where I couldn't even fit a proper desk. Last week, I was speaking on a panel at a Women in Tech conference when a college student asked me about my biggest challenge in building my company. Finding people who believe in you before success makes it easy to do so, I answered without hesitation. Later, at the networking reception, Jess's younger sister approached me. I barely recognized her. She'd been a freshman when we were seniors. I just wanted to say, "My sister really messed up with you," she said nervously. "I followed your journey online. You inspired me to start my own business." She handed me her card. She'd launched a sustainable fashion line that was gaining traction on Instagram. "Your sister taught me who not to keep in my corner," I said, but not unkindly. "Make sure you choose your team wisely." "I will," she promised. And she regrets it, you know. They all do. I just nodded and wished her luck with her business. On my drive home, I thought about how differently things might have gone if my so-called friends had supported me from the beginning. Maybe some of them would actually be working with me now, celebrating genuine success together instead of suffering the consequences of their own short-sightedness. But then I glanced at my phone as a text came in. It was Emma sending me a meme about startup life. Next to it was a notification about our company's stock options increasing in value. And I realized I wouldn't change a thing. The most satisfying revenge isn't just watching karma catch up to those who doubted you. It's building something so amazing that their absence becomes irrelevant to your story. Their chapter ended, but mine was just getting started. And that, Reddit friends, is the most satisfying revenge I ever took on fake friends, succeeding so wildly that they have to live knowing they could have been part of it if they'd just believed in me from the start.